Good morning. Good morning, Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert. We always do a couple of good mornings there to make sure that everything's engaged and we're live and there's time to get everything going. So we're right in front of your wonderful faces so you can see our wonderful faces. So welcome day to today's Sensational 6. We look forward to connecting with you and sharing with you and answering your questions and partnering with you and knowing the divine expresses perfectly and powerfully. And why don't we go and take a prayer and remind us of that whole truth that takes place this time together. All right? Breathing in and breathing out. We settle into and remind ourselves of the infinite divine presence that is right here, right now. Of the one life and one presence that is God, that is my life, that is this life, that is the life of this conversation and this time together. From this place of unity, of divinity, of oneness, we know that the divine wisdom and enlightenment and ideas flow forth through the mind and hearts and mouths of the Sensational 6 to every single recipient and each other. That we feel that infinite presence of God flowing in this time, in this hour we have, that each of us revel in the truth, feel it enrich us, enlighten us, and deepen our understanding of the presence and power of God that we are, and that we can use it to create the life that we desire. From this truth, and for this truth, I give grateful thanks, knowing the law has taken this word and made it so. Right here during our time together, I give grateful thanks. We let this be, and so it is. Amen. For our morning sharing together this morning, to kind of get to know all of us a little better, we're going to share our spiritual practices and what that looks like for us. And maybe there'll be some additional insights for you of how you could expand your spiritual practice. So why don't we have William, why don't you start off for us, please?
Oh, thank you so very much, Brad. I'm probably the black sheep of this beautiful group here. I would have to say that truly my spiritual practice is at the beginning of the day and at the end. At the beginning, I basically have the duties of taking my dog for a walk. And it is at that time where I take him for a walk that I just allow myself to feel that morning sun, whether it's wintertime or summertime. And I just contemplate on my connection with spirit and everything that I see, everything that I hear. I recognize my oneness and my connection with it, because everything is nothing but spirit unfolding. And so that's the way that I start off my day. Now, my other spiritual practice that I do is at night, and that is where I do a prayer. And one of the first things I learned from Dr. Joe, our wonderful Reverend, is the intention of this, the subconscious and how it works. And he really instilled in me the importance of working with the subconscious, not so much working against it or trying to change it, but working with the subconscious. And so at night, the last thing that I do is I'm laying my head on the pillow, I do an affirmative prayer for whatever intention that I want to experience. Because he says this, your subconscious is where all that real work happens. And so I figure if it's the last thing I'm thinking about as I'm falling asleep, I've set an intention for that 5 to 8 hours of rest, that my mind is at work with spirit, allowing the universe to unfold perfectly for what it is I desire. And so I would have to say that's my spiritual practice that I do. And who we have next is Lori.
It's me. So like William, I wake up and go to sleep with spiritual affirmative prayer. that is the first thing I do when I wake up is I kind of ground myself in my day and I treat myself in and also do that when I go to sleep. But in between, my new favorite, actually, I have two favorite spiritual practices. One is spirit breath work, which I do every morning at 9 a.m. And I just love it because it's active and it's powerful. My whole body just starts to tingle and vibrate. And I love that meditation. And I also am a swimmer. And so when I swim, I tend to swim for between an hour and 2 hours without stopping. And that is very meditative. And I just get in a groove where I do affirmations. I change it up. Sometimes I'm doing prayer. Sometimes I'm doing affirmations. Sometimes I'm contemplating a quote. But I spend that time. For me, I'm swimming in the sea of receptivity, and that is kind of my visual as I swim back and forth. So those are my two favorite spiritual practices, and then of course anchored by affirmative prayer, which I think all practitioners are pretty much anchored by. So I'm going to pass this on to Dale.
Thank you, Lori. Well, I say the usual suspects. I wake up in the morning, and after I have my physical shower, I have my spiritual shower, and I meditate and I pray and I read some spiritual literature, and I do some journaling. And I love that because it gets my day started in the right way. And I also do a gratitude journal in the morning and in the evening. And I pray before I go to bed at night too. But the thing about spiritual practice is what I like to teach people. It's not just about these designated times that we set aside to really go into that place. I think every moment of every day has an opportunity to do spiritual practice. And something William didn't mention, when William was in practitioner training, he said, he was having a hard time with meditation and it wasn't working for him. And he said, but you know what, when I'm riding my motorcycle, I'm in that groove. And I really loved that because it opened my eyes to see that meditation isn't just about sitting on the meditation pillow. And Paramahansa Yogananda talked about meditation as well as being something that we want to take it off of the pillow and be using it in everyday life, to know that all these different things we do in life, we can be practicing our spirituality, doing the dishes, taking a walk. So I like to broaden the definition out a bit farther than just what we teach people to do, although those are great places to practice our oneness and our getting to really know who we are spiritually, but to know that the goal really is to bring it out into our everyday life experience. So that's what I have to say today. And I'm going to pass it over to Gail.
Thank you, Dale. So good morning, everyone. My name is Gail Morton, and people frequently ask me about my spiritual practice. And for me, spiritual practices are really not activities that I add to an already busy schedule or a crowded to-do list. They're really not confined, as Dale said, to a particular space or place or time. They're really more what I do every day. They're how I wake up in the morning and how I come alive to the spiritual reality that's all around me. Because for me, spiritual practice is all about practicing growth. And I think of this spiritual practice as the path that I travel on my spiritual journey. So everything that I do can become a part of my practice. So I know that's pretty vague. So what do I really mean when I say that? So if I had to name my spiritual practices, I would just generally call them a growing practice and a flowing practice. So the growing practice is really the way I live my life, and the flowing practice is the same, but like Lori said, she has favorites right now. It changes as I change and grow. So for example, right now, my growing practice, I would call attention. And you might also know attention as mindfulness or as awareness, or maybe focus or concentration. But for me, this is a growing practice because I've discovered that for me, I have to stay alert or I risk missing critical elements of my spiritual journey. So I miss moments of grace or opportunities for gratitude or evidence of my connections with others. So the good news is I can practice attention anywhere, anytime, and in the daily rounds of my life. And it's just a really powerful practice for me. So you might ask, how do you practice attention? Well, I do it by doing one thing at a time. I used to be the master of doing multitasking, and until I realized how detrimental it was. So I try to keep my mind focused on whatever I'm doing in the moment. And I'm training myself by doing that to notice these wonderful details as my life. And so how do I stay focused on attention? Well, what I do is I use triggers. I have triggers set up. So a notification on a phone or the ring of a telephone reminds me to practice attention, something that happens throughout the day. It's one of my triggers. When I watch a musician or an artist at work, I'm reminded of the importance of focused attention. And when I greet a family member, a friend, a colleague, anyone in the morning, I make a vow to be attentive to his or her needs today. So I continue to set up triggers for myself to remind myself to be mindful, to be in that present moment, to be in that space of attention. And yes, I also have that flowing practice that I talked about, which always includes for me gratitude at the beginning of the day and in the evening. And then some type of breath meditation. Lori and I are connected on that. And then also I do a lot of yoga. That is a wonderful moving meditation for me. And what I find is that these activities are always evolving. They're always changing as I evolve. So I guess in summary, for me, a spiritual practice for me is less a to-do, and for me, it's more of a way of living my life. And it's how I keep growing and how I keep evolving. So with that, Cheryl, I'm so interested to hear about your spiritual practice.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, everyone. What great insights and great spiritual practices everybody seems to have. I read a quote once, and it really is the basis of my spiritual practice. It says, sometimes the most important thing in a whole day is the rest we take between two deep breaths. And that's from Etta Hillesum. But anyway, the thought for me is that my spiritual practice is not limited to just one time during the day or in one space during the day. It's being in that cosmic consciousness that allows you just to drop immediately into that space, that place where, okay, everything is unfolding perfectly, everything is complete, and I know that everything is just as it should be. So it's kind of like what I do is I just have to be outside, first of all, because I just love being outdoors. And sometimes my spiritual practice includes all kinds of crazy things. Like I love to stand like this when the wind is really blowing, because I just feel like the whole energy of the universe is just rushing right through me. And when I'm in that space, when I get to that place of feeling this total connection with the energy of the universe, it's just like all of a sudden everything else falls away. Nothing is in the microcosm means anything. It is just something to release, something to experience, and something to grow from. And so I just love that ability after so much time and so much effort. Effort's not the right word. So much practice has brought me to this place to where to fall into consciousness, boom, just like that, immediate consciousness is part of my spiritual practice. But the one thing that so many other people have said that really makes a difference for me is gratitude. And that is what really, really kicks it into gear for me, is when I look around and I see the beauty and the absolute gloriousness of this planet and of this world and who we are, and my heart just bursts with joy. So it's coming to that place where I find that place of joy. I know I'm in the space. I know that's where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the zone. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Brad. Thank you.
That's powerful, folks. I'm sure all of you have gotten some new insights and new ideas of how you can incorporate something that you heard here today into your spiritual practice. I'm not touching my table and it's still bouncing. I loved Dale mentioning about, when you're doing dishes. I learned it from Thich Nhat Hanh, a book where he talked about even in that space, can I breathe in and breathe out to be very present to the moment. a dear friend of mine and mentor for many years, Dr. Lloyd George Tupper. I remember couple of decades ago, he was at a church conference and someone introduced him with all these accolades and blah, blah. And he got up and said, "Hello, my name is Lloyd George Tupper. I'm a practicing religious scientist." And that has still stays with me after 20 something years, because that's what I always want to do. Now mine shows up throughout the day, but also shows up specifically. So let me share my specifically. One is each morning I read from 365 Science of Mind, and I read from Richer Living. And both of these I also have on Kindle. So, or at least Richer Living I have on Kindle. So it's really great for me to have it whenever even if I'm on my phone somewhere else, I can reread the daily reading. In my morning reading, I have specific reading also from the Science of Mind textbook. And there's a little part at the very beginning of the textbook that has a checkoff sheet that you can do to read certain sections so that within a whole year, you can read the whole textbook. And I get to sit in my office. I have a view out of the front courtyard that's got a finch feeder and a hummingbird feeder. And right on the windowsill is nice and wide for my big coffee cup. And I can sit there, and I was told years ago, don't read pages or don't read books, read pages. So I read a paragraph or a page, and if I need to stop and move into meditation and prayer, then I do. In that morning time also includes prayer for myself, whatever prayer requests are on my list, and just from my meditation of what or who comes to mind that I said, I would like to just pray about that. And I include that with my activity of prayer, my spiritual practice. So mine, I love that time. Sometimes it's only 15 minutes. Sometimes it's 90 minutes. As you've heard, I take care of my mom, and sometimes she gets up early and sometimes she doesn't. So, and she just needs assistance in the morning for a chunk of time. And sometimes, you know, may not always wake up with, sometimes we wake up with, And so I do push-ups, and then I do planks, a couple of minutes of planks, and I get my spiritual practice. And maybe sometime in the afternoon, usually 3 or 4 o'clock, it's like I go back into it and I just read the same things over again, or whatever I'm called to expand that with additional reading. And that's not our only readings, right? All of us as practicing religious scientists have other amazing books that nurture us, remind us of the one that we are. So today we have an awesome speaker and teacher to start us off with. You may have heard of her. Her name is Dale Lansky, and she's a longtime practitioner at our amazing community. She's a fellow ministerial graduate, and she's going to begin our conversation on the power of intention and just having intention in life. So remember to, if you have any questions or comments, to put them in, and we will be addressing them after Dale does a little sharing. We'll do some sharing, and we love to have you participate however you'd like to with this conversation and this enlightened sharing by Dale Olansky.
Wow, that you set the bar a little high on that one. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you very much. This is a great topic. I love the idea of the power of intention. And also, we're going to be launching Power of 8 groups that's all about intention. And I'm pretty sure Gail's going to maybe mention some of that when she does some sharing about intention and what that's all about. So I'd like to begin by educating all of you about, as ministerial students, something that was taught to us, emphasized for us to know, and even appeared on our final exam as ministers. And that is the roots of New Thought. We were taught the importance of it because what came about during New Thought was kind of a revolutionary shift in consciousness regarding belief, regarding spirituality, and also the power of the mind to heal. And what we learned was that our roots as religious science ministers, or I will say soon to be ministers, that's coming. It's important for us to know that our roots as far as emphasizing our ability to use our minds to create our lives began with Emerson and with Quimby and Mesmer and all these people that discovered that our minds are very powerful and influence and even create our life experiences and also play a part in our physical healings. And from what I see regarding this thought, this what was new thought, is in this time, in this era that we're in, there are still many people who do not know the power of their minds. And that's why I love being in our teaching, because we're here to teach people that, as Ernest Holmes would say, there is a power for good to use in the universe and you can use it. And so we teach people how to use that and how to change their minds. So enter in this word called intention. Intention, the definition from the dictionary, is an act or instance of determining mentally upon some action or result, meaning that we are directing the power of our thought to create our life experiences. And Ernest Holmes even says this. He says, conscious thought is the starting point of every new creation. Trained thought is far more powerful than untrained, since the admission that thought is power gives it added power. So the bottom line here is that if we want a life where we're hitting our potential, where we're seeing all the things that we want to see in life, from great health to wonderful relationships, it all starts in our minds, and it starts with the intentions that we're setting to create whatever it is we want to live into. So we're here to teach you today about how to get into what are your intentions, because we are all divine beings. We are all here with gifts. We are all here with desires. We're here with an energy of expression of who we are and a life that we just desire to live into. And many of us, we get disheartened about that, or we get defeated because there might be times in life where we feel like we don't have the power and we can't create what we want. So we resign ourselves and don't use this amazing power that is always there, nonstop, always there for us to use to create the life that we would like to live. So it's up to us to, no matter what's happened before this time, no matter what, doesn't matter. This is a fresh moment, a new opportunity to set an intention, to see what it is you want to live into, and know that when you set that intention, you're setting energy. You know, we talk a lot about in our world, especially today, it's all about quantum physics is like the big deal right now, because science is showing what we've been teaching in metaphysics, that our thoughts, our beliefs are an energy, and they outpicture in our physical experience. So to use that intention as an energy, as something that has potential for form, and to believe that and to know that this is where I begin to create my good, this intention. And so when we anchor into that intention, make it big, make it what works, what's just on our heart to live, and speak it and know it and claim it. How we teach it is that the law of mind is acting upon that energy and bringing forth the physical demonstration of that intention. And so this is for us to do, is to get into this idea of an intention. And I'm so grateful that Gail brought forward the power of 8, because I think the time is right for us to really start understanding intention, how to use it, how to craft it, how to be in groups where we're holding that intention for each other, and just let life really get big and wonderful and powerful for us, because it is within us to do. We've got it, it's here, and let's learn how to harness this wonderful power of intention to create our lives. And if we're doing this individually, we're influencing the collective. And really where we are in our world right now, it's time for us to create from this power of intention so we can bring forth a wonderful new experience here on earth for everybody. So that's my introduction to the power of intention. And now I'm going to open up to the rest of the 6 to add their 2 cents to this.
So Dale, I loved your foundation that you built around intention, because I think there's a lot of, with the different terminology that we're using right now, the power of 8, powerful intention circles, affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, what does it all mean? And I think that I can kind of clear that up so we can move forward into these powerful intentions. So an intention is really a purposeful plan, and a purposeful plan to perform an action. And that action is going to lead to a desired outcome. And that really differs from the term desire, which really simply implies focusing on an outcome. It doesn't really mean there's a purposeful plan of how to achieve it. So what I love about that three-part definition is that in it, intention requires some sort of reasoning. It requires a commitment to do the intended deed. So intention also implies purposefulness, an understanding of a plan of action, and then a plan for a satisfactory result. And when you think about it, that definition, those three pieces, is really synonymous with what we say casually, which is treat and move your feet. It's really the same thing. We're going to treat, so we're going to have a purposeful plan that will lead to a desired outcome, and we're going to move our feet, which is performing an action. So it doesn't matter if you call it a powerful intention circle where everybody has this powerful plan. It doesn't matter if it's called the circle of 8 or really spiritual mind treatment. It's really all the same thing. It's just that the process under which we experience it is just slightly different. And the other thing that I love about the word intention versus some of the other terms that we use is that the word intention, when you think about it, can be both secular and non-secular. So I love the broadness of the word intention. So with that, I'll turn it over to one of my cohorts.
I'll go next. I love that Gail reminded us that intention, there's two parts to it. That there is that part that lives in our heart, that is that free-flowing energy, like we have this intention to do something wonderful, but it doesn't really come alive until we anchor it with some action. And I think of, intention lives in the realm of mind, and action lives in our physical reality. And when we connect the two, it's like we're creating this powerful conduit. And the important thing is to be in alignment. So what we say we want, the way we know if we really want it is, are we taking action? Are we anchoring it in physical reality? Are we doing something? Because, that old expression that the, y- y- uh, the road to nowhere is paved with good intentions. And that speaks to an intention without action is just nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's a wonderful thought. But then when we focus our energy not just on the thought, but on anchoring that thought in physical reality, that's when things start to change. And to me, they light up my heart. They're specific to me. They're things that speak to my being. And then how do I want to be in the world? And I take action based on that. So they give my daily life direction. They tell me where to focus my energy to make sure that when, my days are done, I look back and I say, "Oh yeah, I did what I came here to do. All is well. I was a loving wife. I was a good friend. I was an awesome practitioner." Whatever it is that speaks to you, that I demonstrated that the people around me felt my intention, experienced my intention in my relationships with them. So thank you, Gail and Dale, for just a wonderful explanation of intention.
I'm reminded of in years ago, we used to have a curriculum where in beginning classes and even follow-up classes, you had to, you were required to write a prayer treatment every week. But the prayer treatment, we've been taught 5 steps, but there always had to be an initial step to that, a 6th step. That was your purpose statement. And for years, people just had a hard time with that. And I'm just reminding of that, how funny that was and how powerful it is with intention. Because if you're writing out a prayer, speaking a prayer, or just trying to live your life like we're talking about, what do you want? Do we just get in the car and hope our vacation shows up? You've heard this analogy a million times. Sorry to use it again. But do we want to have a road trip vacation and we get in the car and just know that some way, somehow it's going to show up of where we're supposed to go and what it's going to look like? No, we make an intention of what it's going to be. So whether it's a one-time prayer or a major life thing, or I want my left toe to not be bent anymore, set the intention on it. Be clear on what that is what you want. Because when you're clear of this is what I want and this is what my desire, then you can move it into prayer and put it in your intention circles and your groups and sharing, and the law knows exactly what to do. If you're not telling the law what to do, it's going to do whatever your subjective mind is going to do and your subconscious mind is going to do. And we've lived with that long enough.
I think I'll add to that. I love your one guy to another. I love analogies, and I like your little road trip. But I'm going to add to that a little caveat to that. Yes, you're right. Getting in your car, going, I want to go on a vacation. I want to go on a road trip, and never starting the car and never going anywhere, and thinking that something's going to happen. Yes, you have to have an intention. But also this, point A to point B. You don't have to know exactly how to get to point B, but allowing that road trip to unfold organically, having the intention of what you want to experience on the back end, that is great. But allow the universe to give you opportunities to take exit 5 as opposed to you thought you were going to go to exit 15, and allowing that course, that road trip to expand. And I bet you that you will see new experiences, have new insight to issues that you weren't even, that were inside, but weren't on the forefront. But allowing yourself to allow the universe to unfold, to allow that journey to happen, allows not only more insight, more connectivity to yourself and to the universe around you, but it also helps you with other issues and other questions that you may be having. Just allowing help, just allow life to always show you answers, not just to the one that's in the forefront, but to those other issues that you have in the back of your mind. I love what I do, and I have intentions, but I also allow the universe to unfold how it does. And it's funny, what I'm doing as a source of income, being an artist / sandblaster, it's funny how I got to do what it is I'm doing. I could not plan that at age 15, 16, when you go to your counselor and they try to tell you what you're going to be doing based upon who you are at that age. There's no way anybody could say that I would be doing what I'm doing today. However, allowing myself to see what I used to do as a child, which I used to wake up in the morning and build models. And I would spend all day building models, painting each individual little piece, gluing it together. And that's what I love to do. And it's funny how what I'm doing today is exactly that. But instead of building models, I'm building homes, I'm creating, I'm designing, all those things that I did as a child, which everyone kind of says, as you're a child, you're closer to spirit because you're closer to where you kind of came from or got birthed from. And so you have that connection people talk about. And as we grow up and grow older, that kind of falls to the wayside and you forget about your connection. If you're having issues and you don't know what your intention is, during this time that we're having, this forced vacation, allow yourself to reflect on what you used to do as a child. What brought you passion? What brought you joy? What was the thing you woke up that you had to do? And see if there's not a connection with what you did back then, now as an adult, regardless of your age. I don't care if you're 60, 70, 80. It doesn't matter. Age has no bearing on spirit. Your soul is eternal. You can start today to create the life you want by setting that intention based upon your passion, what everyone here has talked about, that passion that you have. Even though it's so quiet, the biggest fire always started from a tiny spark. That was powerful stuff right there for me. And I hope it was powerful for you. Allow that spark that is deep inside of you to come up. Give it breath. Blow on it. Give it fuel. Allow it to come up. I'm muted. Anyway, I'm going to let it go with that. Just allow that intention to happen. Allow it to unfold and follow the internal yes inside of yourself.
We should take more than a moment to breathe in that wisdom from my brother William. Wow. But I wanted to pop in here just another second. Besides those amazing insights, at the very beginning, he added on to something I said. And I want us to really look at that because Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert is going to be creating some opportunities for you to connect with practitioners one-on-one, get into small groups to work with your intention. It's called the Power of 8 Circles. And you saw a demonstration of that right here. So I shared, and we all, I think, agreed how powerful, the road trip analogy, if you don't know where you're going. And then through the group energy and dynamic, William perfectly added on to that and then said, and can you feel how easy it would be that when your intention is clear, what exits you're supposed to take along the way will just unfold themselves. It's not the words that I want you to really get how powerful it is that when you do things in groups with other loving, conscious people, how powerful, I get chills on that, how powerful the infinite can more easily, it appears, express through your word and through to your ears from another's word.
I would just like to add on also to Williams about sometimes are you setting your intentions though according to what you desire or according to what people expect from you? And just a funny story is that when I was in high school, my senior year, they had us take this standardized testing that, it asks you all kinds of crazy questions, and found out later it was actually conducted by the military to see, where you would apply if you were drafted into the military. So that tells you how old I am. But anyway, the whole point was that it was supposed to tell us where we should set our intention. In other words, what we were good at. So this is the path that we should follow. And so I go in to talk to the counselor after these tests, and she was looking at this paper and looking at me and saying, according to this, you should be an auto mechanic. I'm like, no, I'll get grease under my nails. No, but it was not that. It was just that, in other words, sometimes people have an idea of who you are and what your intention should be. But that's where it becomes so important to really know what your intention is and to know what path you're on, and to look at it from the micro makes it look like sometimes this is not unfolding like I want it to. But if you're looking at it from the macro and you stay on track, no matter what is appearing, no matter what is showing up, just think, okay, this is something I needed to learn in my advancement towards my intention. I might not make any sense right now, but I know that it will unfold, and I will be able to look back on this and say, oh, that's where that part of my life, or where that one piece or this one thing that made no sense at the time now fits perfectly into this beautiful mosaic that is my life. And so it's like staying on track. And so when those things that appear in your life, don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, oh, this isn't going to work because, oh gosh, this happened. No, stop, step back and say, how strong is my intention? And how important is it that I follow through on this? And that's where you have to take your power from, is from the intention, not just placing it in the intention, but get the power from the intention, because something within you knows this is the direction you are to follow. Something within you already knows that what that intention is, and is unfolding it perfectly. As you know, doesn't matter how long it takes or where you are in your life at this moment, if you're still focused on the goal, that's the main thing. So those little, as they call them, exit, I take it from Charles, he calls it rabbit holes. You know, there's a rabbit hole here and there's a rabbit hole here. So am I going to go down that rabbit hole, or do I need to, or do I just need to step back and stay on focus with what my intention is? And so I sometimes, that's the hardest part of staying in intention, is realizing that no matter what is appearing, it is not to dissuade you or to take you off intention. It's just something that needs to be looked at, experienced, and just go from there. Thank you guys for letting me speak.
So we have a couple of questions. Yay. I'm going to start with the last one first, which is, if I desire excellent health, what would I put into action? So I'll answer that first. I mean, for me, that's one of my desires. It's my key desire right now. So for me, I swim every day. I choose foods that nourish my body. There are infinite ways to put that into action. Um, check in with yourself. What do you need? Do you need to be sleeping more? Do you need to get up earlier? Do you need to move your body more? What are you called to put into your body? There's so many ways to anchor that in physical reality. Now, here's the thing. If you have an intention to be healthy and then you have a hot fudge sundae for breakfast and you feel awful after you eat it, there might be a little incoherence here. That conduit is kind of collapsed on itself, hasn't it? So is what you're doing in physical reality, is what the action you're taking, is it in alignment with your intention? And just keep coming back and asking yourself that. And I'll read this other question and then I'll pass it on, and you guys can take whichever one you like. I get the power of having an intention, but really, what is it? Is it just a sentence describing my desire? Should I write a paragraph?
Well, I think that's a great question, and thank you for providing it to us, because what I'm realizing now is we've talked a great deal about the importance and value of having intentions, those what's do I want to experience, but we haven't really shared with you what really is an intention statement. And I think each of us will probably have a slightly different experience, but valuable experience to share there. So I know for me, what's really important is for me to write it down. That may or may not work for you, but for me, if I write it down, then it really forces me on how to express it. It forces me to reflect on how to express it. And it also gives me the ability to explore what I really mean. Because sometimes if it's just up in my head, it's really not going to be what Gail really wants to experience in her life. So my first tip there is write it down and then work with it. See what comes forth, and you'll know when it feels right. And typically, to answer your question about should it be a paragraph, what the length, typically the very best, most powerful intention statements are brief, they're extremely clear, and they're inspiring. So include the feelings that you have around it. And they often make reference to a new way of being, which is the way I heard the first question expressed. It was really a new way of being versus just a specific goal. So instead of, I want to lose 100 pounds, I want to be healthy, I want to be vibrant, I want to be moving and have great action as my life. That's more about the way I want to be versus just having a specific goal. And so tips for writing a powerful intention statement really are to affirm only what you want, not what you don't want. Write as if it's happening now. So be in that present moment. I am. And then focus on the feelings. Remember, our feelings are what gets the healing. It's always our feelings. So it's really just that simple. Just focus on those three areas and you'll be able to create a powerful, powerful intention statement. And what I love about how we're approaching this Power of Eight. If you've been following how it's been unfolding, our first session will be Wednesday, the 29th of July, is that your facilitator will be contacting you prior to your first session to help you craft a powerful intention statement. So you'll be able to learn and be supported as you do that. And it's fun because it's not something to get stressed out about. Sometimes when people try to write an intention statement, they say, oh, this is just so stressful. But it's not ever about getting it right. It's instead playing around with just different forms of expression. So as you're trying it, just allow yourself to play around and then give yourself permission to keep trying until that intention statement feels just right. So I'd like to give you a couple of examples before we move on to someone else of what an intention statement might look like. So let's consider first a real common what, which is a wish for financial freedom. That's a very common one for many people. And you might be tempted in this to write an intention statement that might say something like, I will be rid of all debt, or I will no longer worry about money. Well, there's actually a more powerful way to phrase that because you've brought in some things you really don't want. So maybe instead you can say, I am financially abundant, or I have all the money that I need. Again, you're affirming only that which you want and you've brought it into the present moment. And what about the other pillars? So example, relationships. So you're going to want to steer clear from statements, intention statements that say things like, I avoid partners who are bad for me, or I can move on from this heartbreak, because again, you're affirming things that you don't want. So an example might be instead, I am joyful in love. Or what about, I attract partners who treat me well. Those are some concrete examples of how you can craft a powerful, powerful intention statement using what William explained, what you want to experience, but leaving open the piece of how it's going to unfold for you. Anyone else?
I'm going to piggyback on what Gail said, and because I know that there's infinite number of intentions that we can set. Sometimes, and I like what you touched on, Gail, that she talked about a feeling state or a state of being, because I think underneath all the experiences we like to have, there can be even deeper intentions of wanting to be in that experience or that feeling state of knowing who I am. I mean, that's an intention, to be able to deepen my spirituality, or to know that all of life conspires for me. These are like foundational intentions that you can also bring in, because when you've got a really strong spiritual foundation, then you don't have to have so many concrete intentions, because you're just spinning in an energy of knowing and expecting your good to always be coming into your life. So it just does. So it kind of like automates your universal receiving and giving experience, because you know who you are. So you can use your intentions to also create, as I'm saying, to also create a knowing state of heightened spirituality, self-love, all that good stuff. So intentions can be used for anything, not just concrete things that you want to manifest in life, but a knowing state, an expansive state of just beingness. And I think, Lori, we have a question.
Yes, and I love that, Dale. That is definitely one of my global intentions, my meta intention, to remember who I am. So our question is, what do I need to do if I've set an intention on to rehab my arm and I put the work in with no results? Now, I think that's a key thing to talk about. That because when we get frustrated when we don't see results, it shifts our energy, doesn't it? So, commitment, that we keep going no matter what, knowing the end result and staying so incredibly focused on that. And you might want to call a practitioner and get some support, because if things are not flowing the way you want, perhaps there's a rogue belief in there that's, derailing your intention. So get some support. And remember to stay committed no matter what shows up, that you keep going, because it's that commitment that gets us over the finish line, so to speak. And our second question is to Gail. Where online do I sign up for the next Power of Eight group? What a good question. Thank you.
Yes, and I love answering that question. So if you go out to our website, there will be, if there's not right now, very, very soon, there will be a link that you can use to sign up for your Power of Eight session. It will indicate the days and the times, because we have multiple time slots that you can choose from. Now, and that process is, by the way, very, very simple and straightforward. So check out the website. There's online registration. If you don't see it today, look tomorrow, because it's coming. And second, you can always call the center. Call the center and they will ask you a few questions about what it is that you're interested as far as day and time, and ask for some information. And then we'll be contacting you to get you registered and to confirm that registration. So 2 ways to do it: by phone or online registration. So don't hesitate. Go ahead and sign up. We're excited to be with you on this.
I think also it's important to mention, Gail, how they're going to be standalone sessions for a while. So each group is going to be complete in and of itself until we see how it evolves.
Yes, and that's exactly right. And we have some really exciting and creative ideas of how to continue to evolve these sessions. So the standalone sessions are because standalone sessions are amazing in and of themselves. And what we love about it, it gives everybody a chance to give it a try. So as we continue to give it a try and get even more excited about it, we're going to start talking to you about some creative ways that we can expand these Power of Eight circles into some powerful communities if people desire to move in that direction. And I'd also like to address the question that came before it about, what happens if I'm really being diligent, and no matter how many collages I'm making or how many times I'm affirming that I already have something, it doesn't happen. The house mortgage I wanted falls through, or my new car gets damaged, something happens. And I love Lori's answer, and I just want to expand on it just a little bit. And the reason that I do is that what I think of here is that nothing, absolutely nothing that we experience is permanent. So what that does is open us up to infinite possibilities. And so, as Lori said, always keep that door open. But at the same time, if it's feeling like the universe is responding to your intentions with some kind of a no, why is that? Well, it's likely because something even better is in the works. So as Lori said, do your best to stay lighthearted, stay positive, while enjoying your present moment as it is, warts and all. And then keep your eyes focused on that highest eternal reality. As William said, we can define the whats. Let's leave those hows open for spirit to unfold in magnificent ways and as infinite possibilities.
Yes, I would have to say that that's wonderful. It truly is. Also, I would add on to our first question is, if you don't see it happening right away, every prayer is answered. Ernest Holmes talks about that. And as far as health goes and issues, he talks about how they manifest in physical form, those subconscious thoughts. It's up to us to consciously see that. And I would invite our listeners that there's a situation that you're going through, and Dr. Joe is an advocate about this, a pill or a prayer or a combination thereof. Because ultimately, everything is nothing but spirit unfolding. That pill is spirit. That thought is spirit. Your intention is spirit. It's energy. It is the essence of life and reality. So to give yourself that healing that you're desiring, sometimes you might have to look at those subconscious thoughts and release the hidden feelings that you may have about a certain situation. May not always be it, but that's a great place to start. And then, as Gail was saying, your intentions, being open. Don't forget the journey itself. Just know that Spirit answers all prayers, and that your every single day is, you want to walk to New York City, guess what? It's one step at a time. You know, it's several thousands of miles. It's several thousand steps. I can't say after 5 steps, gee, I'm not at New York City. Well, that's because life still is in order. There's laws, there's reality, there's order to everything. And so allow the universe to unfold perfectly, but by keeping your intention focused, without worrying about it's not happening today, but just allowing it to unfold perfectly. And with a state of calm in your consciousness, just know that every single second of every single day, that intention of what you want to experience, whether it be health, whether it be finances, whether it be a relationship, every single second it's coming closer and closer to you. And by maintaining a positive and expectant attitude, it allows it to happen that much quicker. Now, with that said, are there any other comments that any of us have about what's happening today? Are there any other questions, Lori? I'm going to let it stay open here for a quick second.
I've got something to add on to that, William, just very quickly, because I know we're getting close on time. But whenever you set your intention, don't start outlining, is one of the things that we call it, is, in other words, telling or expressing to the universe exactly how it's supposed to unfold, thinking that we know better, the best answer. We already know the answer. So then why on earth are we expecting the universe to answer it for us? So it's a letting go of how you think it should appear and letting it appear in the perfect divine way. Thank you, guys. That was great, William.
Thanks, Cheryl, for that last insight. And so right now, as we start to wind down our wonderful Wednesday, somewhere on the page that you're at is a donate button. And we here, the Sensational Six, as well as the CSL Palm Desert community at large, greatly appreciate your donations. What we are doing here today, and the things you don't see, the things that are happening behind the scenes, takes energy. And sometimes that energy is in the form of monetization, is monetary. So we greatly appreciate whatever it is that you can give, knowing that as you give, you so shall receive. That is a staple that has been since man has had conscious thought. So allow yourself the gift of giving, because as you do so, you do receive. So every single day at 10 o'clock, there's something happening here at Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert. On Monday, we have concerts and conversations with Patrick Riffin, who's going to be our musical guest artist for that day. Jafon and Reverend Charles on Tuesday is what's going to be happening again. The conversations that they've been having with Dr. Joe and Reverend Charles with Jafon have been very enlightening. May not always agree with everything, but you know what? It is spirit. There are new ways of looking at life, and it opens up my eyes, opens up my heart, and it's just been wonderful conversations that we've been having. Also on that day, now has been relatively challenging, and so on Tuesdays, there is also grief from 2 to 3 that I also want to give a nice little shout out for that, for our little get together on that. If there's anything that you're going through as far as with relationships, as far as you don't know where to turn, at 2 o'clock from 2 to 3 is a great place to just go to a safe place, allow conversations to unfold, gives you new insight, and I tell you, it will definitely help you out. If there's any questions with anything, you're having any type of grief, please go and join them as there. On Wednesdays, of course, you've got the 6 of us on Wednesdays, and we greatly appreciate you joining us each and every week. And then on Thursdays, we have Reverend Charles with Debbie Dixon, as well as other days that we do have. Also want to give a plug out to our YouTube channel. That one is Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert. Every one of our sessions that we have here, and everything that we videotape and we broadcast every single day, you can find it there. Go back into the archives, do the research, find out new and interesting things that you may have missed. It's just a wonderful way to spend a little bit of time. So again, I want to thank you everyone for your time. I want to thank the Sensational Six. I want to thank Trey for being our guru behind the scenes. And so at this time, I'd like to do a nice little quick pray out. And so just allow yourself to be comfortable in that seat, in that chair, on the side of the road, if you're on your phone watching us. But just know this: there is nothing but one life happening, and that is the life of spirit. All of reality and beyond is just a spiritual expression of itself. And I know that I am an expression of that. I am a part of that. I am the cog in that. Everything that spirit is, I am. Peace, joy, love, health, abundance, creativity are all mine. And so right here and right now, I know that they are the truth of everyone here on this morning joining us. It is a truth of everyone who have no clue of who and what we are. But I know the truth of everything, that it is nothing but spirit unfolding. So life is beautiful. The insights that we've learned today, I'm so grateful for. Every single one of us is an expression of spirit, God, universe. I don't care what you call it. It is. The capital IA, the IT. The I am that I am. I kind of like that. The I am that I am. And I know that I am part of that I am. Oh, we could go round and round in circles, but with gratitude, I just enjoy this day. I allow it to unfold perfectly. I allow this feeling to uplift my spirits, to uplift my attitude, knowing that as I feel, I so radiate out that health and abundance come from joy and gratitude, and I have that with abundance. And so as I say these words with joy, I release my word as law right here and right now. And together we say, and so it is. I want to thank you all so very much. If everyone would just unmute, let's just have a nice big hoorah.
Hoorah.
Hoorah!
Thank you, William. That was a great closing.
Thank you.
And watch us on Sunday. We've got a new kind of service coming this Sunday, so tune in.
Wonderful.
Yay.
And meditation
Blessings
on
all.
Saturday.
Love you all.